Now in the sixth order.
January 17, 2025. The Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that Senate Bill 1003 and 1004 have been correctly printed. Lakey, Chairman.
Senate Bills 1003 will be referred. Senate Bill 1003 will be referred to the Resource and Environment Committee, and Senate Bill 1004 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee.
January 16, 2025. The Commerce and Human Resources Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Steve Landon, appointed to the State Insurance Fund Board, term to expire May 1, 2028. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Foreman, Chairman.
The gubernatorial appointment of Steve Landon will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
January 16, 2025. The Local Government and Taxation Committee reports out House Bill 3 and recommend that it do pass. Ricks, Chairman.
House Bill 3 will be referred to the 12th order of business, second reading calendar.
January 16, 2025. The Education Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Kurt Leibig, appointed to the State Board of Education, term to expire July 1, 2029. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Lynn, Chairman.
The gubernatorial appointment of Kurt Leibig will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
January 17, 2025. The State Affairs Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of George Lynch, appointed to the Idaho Energy Resources Authority, term to expire January 30, 2029. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Guthrie, Chairman.
The gubernatorial appointment of George Lynch will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
January 17, 2025. The State Affairs Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Thomas J. Wilford, appointed to the Idaho Endowment Fund Investment Board, term to expire April 11, 2027. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Guthrie, Chairman.
The gubernatorial appointment of Thomas J. Wilford will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
Mr. President.
Senator Den Hartog.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate advance to the 10th order of business.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will now advance to the 10th order of business, motions and resolutions. The Senate is now in the 10th order of business and has before it for final consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 101. The Secretary will read.
In the Senate, Senate Concurrent Resolution 101 by State Affairs Committee.
Senator Zito.
And the journals show that it has been read at length.
Hearing no objection, it is so ordered.
Mr. President, I move the adoption of Senate Concurrent Resolution 101.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. The Senator from 25, you do need to stand to second that.
Mr. President, second.
Thank you, Senator. It having been moved and seconded, Senator Zito is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, according to the Idaho Constitution, Article 3, Section 23, the authority to establish a rate of compensation for the legislature lies with the Citizens Committee, not the legislature itself. This specific section states, the legislature shall have no authority to establish the rate of compensation and expense by law. There is hereby authorized the creation of the Citizens Committee on Legislative Compensation, which shall consist of 6 members, 3 to be appointed by the governor and 3 to be appointed by the Supreme Court, whose term of office and qualifications shall be as provided by law. Members of the committee shall be citizens of the state of Idaho, other than public officials holding an office to which the compensation is attached. The rates thus established shall be the rates applicable for the 2-year period specified, unless prior to the 25th legislative day of the next regular session by concurrent resolution, the Senate and the House of Representatives shall reject or reduce such rates of compensation and expense. In the event of rejection, the rates prevailing at the time of the previous session shall remain in effect. Mr. President, this is a beautiful system of check and balance that our republic was founded on and has thrived on for over 240 years. The Idaho Legislature cannot vote for a pay increase. The Idaho Constitution does not allow it. But I am confident that the forgotten men and women of Idaho who work hard to pay their taxes have not received a 22% increase in their pay this year. At a time when inflation is causing deep hardships for many across the state, an increase of this magnitude is simply inappropriate. Idahoans on a fixed income face losing their homes because they can't pay their property taxes. Many Idahoans struggle to put food on their table for their families and to ensure that they have warm clothing to wear for the winter months. The Idaho Legislature has increased spending in their budget by 55% in the last 5 years. This increase far surpasses the cost of living adjustments and population adjustments over the years. I ask the members of this body to vote to reject the pay increase forwarded by the Legislative Compensation Committee, to be a shining example of strength and leadership to the people of the state of Idaho. Mr. President, debate is now open.
Debate being open, is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Zito.
didn't realize my light was on there. Thank you. So, Senators, I would like to bring your attention to the paper that's on your desk. And this is the resolution that was brought forth from the Idaho GOP winter meeting. And this resolution is stating from our precinct committeemen who represent the people more closely that they would like to have us reject our pay until we can further maybe cut our budget. And so I want to bring your attention to that. On a personal note, I just would like to state that it would be unprincipled for me to accept a pay increase at this time, because many of my constituents who are out there working very difficult jobs, from electricians to welders to milkers, waitresses, they all work very, very hard as well, and very few of them receive a 22% increase. And so for that reason, I will be voting yes on this resolution.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Cole.
I have the utmost respect for all of my colleagues, and I know there are reasonable arguments to be made on both sides. I'm a proud co-sponsor of this resolution because it aligns with the principle of putting our people first. As the senator from District 8 stated, our citizens are struggling under the burden of inflation. Groceries are more expensive now than they have ever been. Before we seek relief for ourselves, we should deliver relief to them. By passing this resolution, this Senate body reinforces the fact that we are not here for profit, but to serve the people of Idaho.
Is there further debate? Senator Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President. I stand to oppose this resolution, and I want to oppose it on several grounds. First of all, I want to point out that the committee that passed the report on to the state controller and the Secretary of State that committee has the force and effect, or that report has the force and effect of law. We can't take money out of the Treasury unless there's a law that provides for it. And that committee report has the force and effect of law. And so what they've done is already in place. It went in place December 1st of last year. So it's only been in place for about 6 weeks. And I think it was worthy to point out that, yes, this is a 22% pay raise, but it totals $5,087. And all you know, prior to December 1st of last year, we were making $19,913 a year. What the committee did is they're going to raise us to $25,000 a year for the next 2 years with no cost of living increase in between the 2 years. There's no mechanism for Idaho legislators to vote themselves a pay raise, contrary to what you've been hearing out there in the public and what a lot of people have been emailing us and calling us about. So what we're really voting on today is a pay cut. And my concern on this has to do with maybe a higher view of the issue, and that is the relative strength between the three branches of government. I checked with LSO, and most of the legislative branches, our budget has to do with salaries, the salaries of the people in this room and the salaries of the people at LSO. When you look at the legislative branches of government's budget compared to the other two branches, the judicial branch runs about 1%. Our branch runs about 0.1%. Our branch of government has about 1/700th of the pie of the entire state budget. At 1/700th of the state budget, I don't feel like we can do the oversight that we need to do, that we can adequately set the budgets and set policy for the state. We do the best we can. And I don't mean to complain about our leadership, who's only been in place for less than 2 months. So it's not their fault. But it's something that has come up through the decades. And I don't feel like we have enough fuel in our gas tank, ammo in the ammo box, energy in our personal bodies to do the job that the people of Idaho want us to do. I want to read from Federalist Paper number 51. It's just one sentence.
Having recognized the source, the senator may read.
In Republican government, the legislative authority necessarily predominates. And I want to read from the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah, verse 33, chapter 33, verse 22.
Again, having recognized the source, senator may read.
The Lord is our judge. The Lord is our lawgiver. The Lord is our king. He will save us. Many people think that that was the inspiration for the type of government that we have today with its three branches. So using the vernacular of that verse, what does the king do? The king implements the law. What does the judge do? The judge enforces the law. What does the law-giving branch of government do? It gives the law. Without giving the law, the other two branches don't have anything to do. And that's how it should operate here in Idaho. But when our slice of the state budget's pie is only 1/700th of that pie, we really can't do the job that the people have entrusted us to do. And I also want to mention that the Citizens Committee on Legislative Compensation was added to the Constitution in 1976. It was the people of Idaho that put it in there, and they wanted to sort of insulate that process from political influences. So that committee has looked at the situation with our legislature, looked at what other state employees have been getting paid, and in their wisdom, they felt that this report that they sent to the Secretary of State's office and the Comptroller's office was appropriate. I might point out that the total amount on the table with this resolution is $534,000. It represents 4/100,000ths of the state budget for this coming year. If we had spent the amount of energy that we spent on this issue on other parts of the state budget, I think we might have been able to save the people of Idaho several tens of millions of dollars. The governor pointed out in his State of the State address that in the last 6 years, the gentleman on the second floor.
Senator, thank you.
That in the last 6 years, his teamwork with the legislature has saved Idahoans $4.6 billion. That works out to about $1,000 per taxpayer per year. This report of the Citizens Committee on Legislative Compensation is going to cost each taxpayer about 50 cents a year. And I just want to speak about me personally. This won't make any difference for me at the end of the year how much money I make. But because I work full time, in fact, I'm a workaholic, I work about as many hours as someone can work. But what it will do for me is it'll shift the boundary line between how much time I can spend doing legislative work and how much time I'll spend on my engineering job. And if I can do more legislative work, I can represent my constituents better, which is, I think, what the people want. I think the people are underrepresented in this state government because of the lack of resources that our branch of government has to work with. And so I feel like I'm standing up here defending the people because I think the people need better representation. And this is something that has kind of grown over the years, and it's not necessarily any one person's fault in this chamber, but it's something that I was interested in way back when I was a House member. And Mr. President, I'd like to read a quote out of a study done by Boise State University professor Gary Moncrief.
Okay, having cited the professor and the document, the senator may read.
The title of the report is Full-Time, Part-Time, Real-Time, Explaining State Legislators' Perception of Time on the Job. This was out of a study that was done in 2002. A large portion, 75%, of Arizona and Colorado respondents, these are legislators, said they spend at least 70% of a full-time job on legislative work. And over 2/3 of Missouri and Oklahoma legislators made the same claim. None of these legislatures is considered full-time by any standard measure, supporting our argument that there is more time devoted to the job as a legislator than by mere session length. So in this report, they sent a questionnaire out to every legislator in America. It was over 7,000. They got 2,900 responses. 46 people from Idaho responded. Across the nation, legislators said they spend 2/3 of the equivalent of a full-time job being a legislator. In Idaho, the number was 59%. The study was done in 2002. I was a member of the House in 2004, and I can tell you that today it's harder than it was in 2004. So I believe that on the average, most of us are spending more than 60% of our time on the job. And just to keep things in context, the rate of pay that we are making, if you consider it as a family of 3, is below the poverty level. And I think we have done a good job for the people of the state of Idaho. We can do better, but if we throttle ourselves back by reducing the amount of resources that are available to us, I don't think we can serve the people of Idaho adequately. And for that reason, I'm going to vote no on this resolution.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Lenny,
to debate the bill.
you have the floor.
Need a new microphone over here. This thing keeps falling down. Thank you, Mr. President. So I wasn't going to say anything about this, but I figured why not? It's Friday. There's only one bill on the docket. I wanted to make it very clear for people watching it on TV or whatever, or people who see this later, that this pay raise that's on the table that we're discussing, this wasn't something we sought out. As the senator from District 2 pointed out, we cannot vote ourselves a pay raise. We cannot give ourselves a pay raise. I thought that was very important to reiterate. Now, we can obviously vote to reject the pay raise, hence the resolution. But I wanted to just kind of be on the record saying that there's bigger fish to fry in Idaho. I think when I look at this pay raise, how small it is after taxes, it comes out to something like $300 a month for each legislator. That's not going to really change anyone's life either way. I think we have bigger issues to deal with, like open borders and DEI and election integrity. These are the reasons I believe our constituents sent us here. So this issue. This resolution, there's been a lot of noise. We've all seen the texts and the emails coming from out-of-state lobbyists. So I think when I look at this issue, I personally feel, for me, I'm not attacking anyone, but I personally feel like this was something that was hoisted on us by kind of out-of-state groups.
Thank you, Senator Zito. I appreciate your objection. And Senator Lenny, we just asked you to stay focused on the actual language of the current resolution.
Yes, sir, which is why I tried to preface that. But anyway, with that said, I'll be supporting this resolution. I've been pretty vocal about it for a long time, that I was personally not really in favor of any pay raise. But at the end of the day, I do think the narrative that's been out there just needed to be addressed, that's all. Because, whether we reject this pay raise or accept the pay raise, it doesn't make a difference, in my opinion, for our constituents, whether we get paid $300 a month more or less. So I'm excited to get to work on some of these bigger issues, borders, DEI, election integrity, and like I said, I'm in support of the resolution. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents there, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Zito, you are recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think I may have called you Mr. Chairman rather than Mr. President. I apologize for that. Mr. President, I just want to close with a couple of thoughts. For me personally, more or less pay will not make a bit of difference in the passion that I serve my people with. I am here to represent the people of my legislative district and to an extent the people of this state. And I will do everything in my power with every breath I take to fulfill that obligation and commitment to them. This pay raise is a moral issue. We can parse numbers all day long. But when our people cannot afford to buy groceries, put shoes on their children, or pay their property taxes to maintain the homes they've worked their entire lifetime to have, this is a problem. Mr. President, debate is now closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall Senate concurrent resolution be adopted? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Is there a correction to the title? Hearing none, the title is approved. Senate concurrent resolution will be transmitted to the House of Representatives.
Mr. President.
Senator Den Hartog.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate now advance to the 11th order of business.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will now advance to the 11th order of business. Introduction, first reading of bills. The Senate is now in the 11th order.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be read by number, author, and title only, and the journal show they've been read at length.
Hearing no objection, it is so ordered.
In the Senate, Senate Bill 1005 by Commerce and Human Resources Committee, an act relating to liens of mechanics and material men, to remove a provision regarding priority of hearings. In the Senate, Senate Bill 1006 by Commerce and Human Resources Committee, an act relating to construction contracts, to provide for certain construction